Yeah. So recently there was a 2-night documentary series that came out on Max, Quiet on Set, which detailed what goes on behind the scenes in like child stars careers, specifically Nickelodeon, with in the like Dan Schneider era. So
Well, before we get into it, I want to know a little bit about what had known about Dan Schneider before this. I think that's important to how we felt after we watched this.
So prior to this, I thought Dan Schneider was like this disgusting monster that was literally essaying people. Like, that's what I thought. I thought he was putting his hands on children and getting away with it. But we watched this this documentary series and that wasn't the case. He didn't, allegedly, from what we know now, he didn't actually essay anybody. He didn't molest anybody. He was just a creepy, horrible boss.
Yeah. I mean, so my experience of this whole, because a lot of people don't know that this kind of started and stemmed from like YouTube conspiracies.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was actually a big part of it. I think this, when I remember it happened, it was probably around like 2013 or 14. This is around the time Jeanette McCurdy, I think that's her name.
Yeah.
From iCarly.
Mm-hmm.
That's when she was dating Andre Drummond, who was a basketball player. He still plays right now. He's a center. 7-foot guy, so it was always an awkward pairing with them. He's 7 foot and she's this little small white girl.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, like a little bit after that, it kind of started coming from like a lot of right wing conspiracy theorists. I usually put y'all in the guys who always like blame everything on the devil, like y'all say everything's the devil and all that stuff. They started talking about the Nickelodeon's kind of like sets and stuff and like what was going on. And like you, I thought that there was like a lot of physical violence on his behalf.
Yeah.
The way that they told it, like a lot of the things that they would try to make it seem like that he was going on was he was orchestrating a lot of these things. And even they talked about some of the humor and the jokes about it as well, and where that can kind of be inappropriate. But they tried to make him seem like he was the ringleader of everything Nickelodeon, that he controlled what was going on and how everything was produced. And they also made it seem like he was someone who was allowing pedophiles to, roam the sets and be able to have this environment. They made him seem like he was the kingpin.
Unchecked. Yeah.
So we get into, actually what, Quiet on Set was. And, they at the end of the day, the portrayal of him before this was he was the Harvey Weinstein for children. That's what I had for him.
Literally, yeah. I thought this was going to be on par with that. But
it comes up to where, they talk about a little bit his early life. Father went to Harvard. He was pretty much viewed like an underachiever. He also lied. They say he lied about going to Harvard as well, like in a newspaper that he told. But he ended up finding, footing in that Head of the Class show. And then that's kind of where everything took off for him. He was able to get to Nickelodeon, started doing all that, and he really kind of shaped face. And the way, like I said, the way they presented it was that he was this guy that was the king of Nickelodeon.
Mm-hmm. And he was discovering talent that was really amazing for Nickelodeon that made them better competition for like Disney and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And one of the weird things that I saw when we was watching the first part, I was like, why is Ice Cube at Nickelodeon? And I really and I went back and actually thought about that when I was a kid. I'm like, why was Ice Cube at Nickelodeon? The gangster rapper Ice Cube.
There were a lot of rappers at Nickelodeon back then, and I thought about this a while ago, and this was a discussion that came up, but Nickelodeon used to be so much blacker.
No,
Nickelodeon used to be mad black. Like,
but if you remember, that's what they talked about where he was praised for the entire time was that he put black kids, women on television.
Mm-hmm.
Like he put them at a young age on television in front of everybody and gave them opportunities to shine.
That's crazy because the black kids and the women were the ones that specifically were having the worst experiences behind the scenes as far as actors.
Were they? I believe there was a redhead boy
that
got the redheaded stepchild treatment. We'll talk about him soon.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so I think some of the jokes were kind of crazy. So let's kind of get into some of the jokes that were a little over the line.
Let me say this first. It's very normal for producers or like writers to like throw an adult joke into like
for sure.
a kid's show, a kid's movie for the parents. Just something like that the kid wouldn't notice, that's not super inappropriate, but the parent could be like, haha, because they're gonna be bored.
Rugrats was full of those.
SpongeBob was full of those too.
You remember on The Little Mermaid, the cartoon version, there was like pictures that looked like dildos in the back of the.
So there's always like little hints of that. I think Dan Schneider, though, there was a lot of stuff that he did, and you can get into that right now.
So like one of the first ones that they kind of highlighted was the Nose Boy skit. So first off, they worried about the nose looking like dicks. Y'all put a big nose on a black boy.
That was my thing. I was like, when they said that they put two noses on my shoulder, I was like, oh, to make fun of your blackness. And he was like, and they look like dicks. I was like, that's not where my mind went at all.
I saw the nose on I saw the prosthetic nose, and I'm thinking, oh, these niggas violate.
Yeah.
Y'all called, so you can't do it. They wouldn't have did that to no Jewish boy. They wouldn't have called him no nose boy.
No.
But y'all went out there and defamed his name
Just
with that.
Big black noses on your shoulder. But
what? They did look like, once they pointed that out.
Yeah, I was like, those are dicks.
Yeah, they would definitely look like those were of the male variety on this shit. But then they even showed the whole climax to the joke was him sneezing on Shawty. And it was supposed to be like a money shot.
There were a lot of money shot jokes. Like Dan Schneider is sick for that. There was so much cum shot stuff. And then not even just the stuff that they showed us in the documentary. We then go on social media and then there's like scene after scene after scene of just like money shot jokes in a kid's show.
But you got to remember too, Slime was always part of Nickelodeon,
Yes.
even before he got there. So the whole putting, something on your face or something like that, dripping on you like that, was inherent to the channel.
But he did it differently because there were dick jokes followed by
he had one where
jokes.
He had one where they were shooting water into iCarly's mouth.
Yeah, and she was on her knees.
On her knees, yeah. Like, so it was a lot of wild jokes. They had the one other one where they had the little boy. He was in peanut butter because they had him doing like a little Fear Factor.
I don't remember what that black man's name is, but he was definitely going through it.
Oh no, he was the most traumatized.
Yeah,
he was the one.
We can
get into him a little bit. No, wait, right. Well, he was real deal traumatized. He was the one he said was in therapy and everything.
Yeah, he's still currently in therapy.
Did you believe his mama? Let's wake that up. Did you believe his mama?
What do you mean?
She said that she was the one being more vocal and all that other stuff about what was going on.
I do, because he was only on there for one season.
Well, there's a lot of kids that got dropped. That wasn't normal.
Well, you said he got dropped because he was ass.
Yeah, he was not good to me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that was offensive. I watched you when I was a kid. I thought you were I hated him on the show. Like, he was the worst. I hated that he put the hat on you. Like, a lot of stuff I hated probably wasn't even your choice. I hated the way they painted you. Like, you reminded me of a kid that I really didn't like when I was growing up too. So it was just like, get this nigga out of here. Like, when they replaced you with Nick Cannon, like, that was my kind of dude. I was like, oh, okay, I can relate to this corny Negro. You are too far corny. Like, it was like a parody. His character was like a parody up there.
They probably did that on purpose. So
it probably no fault. But they covered him in peanut butter and had a dog lick him. He was very uncomfortable with that.
He said, "I don't like this" on the sketch, like in the skit.
Then what else they said? He was selling. They made him sell Girl Scout cookies like they was drugs.
Yeah, the little black boy being a drug dealer was a choice, and then his mom said that she spoke out against that.
I just don't. I'm sorry. I don't believe that. I believe that was cap. I don't think his mom spoke out at all.
Well, she did say. I think they both said that he didn't trust her anymore.
Afterwards.
because of how much she did speak out, and their relationship was affected by it. So because of the fact that he was only on there for one season, and because of the fact that their relationship was strained, I think she did speak out. She might be capping about how much she spoke out. I don't know why you think that she's lying about that, but I think she probably did say something.
Okay, so they also had him, remember, do the fetus rapper too, where he basically was like in a brown whole suit, and he was supposed to be like a baby fetus.
He was in a flesh.
He was like Brenda's baby
suit. And he said that he was in a lot of like leotards.
No, that was the other dude.
That was the other guy?
First black boy
okay.
was the one who played. That was Nose Boy.
Okay.
The other black boy was the one who did the drug deal and all that other stuff.
Okay.
So no, that was that. He also had the worms that he didn't like. But nah, he said he was uncomfortable. But you know what's funny? I feel like if I was like one of them little child stars, the way the mama was acting, my mama would have really been like that. So I have a little story.
I was about to say, don't you have a child star story?
I have a little story. So when I was younger, I was in a pageant. You know what I'm saying? On some player stuff.
That's really crazy. Like, I've never come across a man that did pageants.
I was that dude, yo. You need to understand that. So I did a pageant, and I remember I was really upset because they was announcing the winners, and I felt like I wasn't going to win. And I even started tearing up a little bit in the crowd with my mama. I felt like I let her down. Like, am I an ugly kid? Like, you had me at 40 years old, and I'm an ugly kid? That's a waste of a 40-year-old pregnancy.
Oh, my God.
You know what I'm saying?
You didn't even
That's
have to do all
That's
that.
the waste of a high-risk pregnancy. That's what I was thinking as a child. So, third place comes up, and guess whose name they call? Young Rhetoric. I run up there. It wasn't even like I was crying anymore. I was ran up there so fast to grab my trophy. Oh, I thought I was him. I'm waving at everybody. Yeah, you know, I'm him. I'm probably like
Beauty king.
I'm like 4 or 5 years old. Like, I'm young. I can barely read. And so, you know, we leave, we go out, and I just remember somebody stopping my mom. And a few years later, she told me about what happened. And she said it was a recruiter. And she said it was a recruiter for Nickelodeon.
Ooh.
And this recruiter was specifically under Dan Schneider. And she said, so they said they wanted me to do commercials, and hopefully potentially that might land me acting roles.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So then they showed her a picture of who he worked for. And my mom took one look at Dan Schneider and said, "We don't work with fat white honkies, so I'm sorry." And that was it. That was my last day in the business, ladies and gentlemen.
And you dodged a bullet.
Yeah, my mom protected my butthole. I appreciate that.
Not trusting fat white people.
That was what was
definitely
needed.
Saved your butthole.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. You know what I'm saying? So the way I was looking at some of these kids, I understood, man. Like, I would have been impressionable. They would have did me a new one.
Yeah, because the way let's get into what's his name?
So Drake.
Yeah, and his
And we didn't even talk about Amanda Bynes.
Okay, let's talk about Amanda Bynes.
But no, I just want to say, like, if I was one of those kids, I know how impressionable I would have been. I'd have been doing whatever they asked me to do. It wouldn't have been no problem. They would have asked me to jump how high. Jump. I said how high. I'd have been ready. My mama knew I was too impressionable. I'd have been down for whatever.
Decision.
Where do we need to go? This dark room. Okay, this is where my scene's gonna be.
How you want me to bend?
So shit at 6. I don't think I would have been that coerced.
Oh, my bad.
You'd have to tell me like
this far?
You just had to tell me it's a scene, my G. Like, oh, you know, there's something underneath the couch you need to go grab.
Oh,
like I wasn't that. Like, you wasn't just. About
I'm sorry, I'm
stretch
not
me out at
with
6.
the way that I would hypothetically essay somebody. My bad.
No tact, yo. no little player at all with it. But I think before you go into the Drake Bell situation, you just be ready to jump into the nastiness. I think we should first touch on Amanda Bynes because that was almost a whole episode. I didn't realize how talented she was.
Yeah, she was killing it.
I didn't think that even in real time when I just remember watching her and the fact that she did have her own show, it didn't seem out of the norm for me.
No.
Like, it seemed like she was somebody who it just seemed to flow with. Like, her humor wasn't super girly. Yeah, it was she was funny.
Yeah.
She was like girl Jim Carrey.
Yeah, like a little child Jim Carrey.
And she just was able to control a room so easy. Like, I just remember some of her Ashley, that's me. Like, she used to be killing that shit.
She had like so many iconic characters on Amanda show. Like, Bring Out the Dancing Lobsters is one of my favorite. Amanda Please.
I didn't realize Penelope Taint. Like, that, I felt so dumb watching this because I thought I was a smart kid, but they was just pulling out Penelope Taint. I was like, I didn't even realize that. Yeah. I didn't even realize what they were trying to address there.
No, that's really weird that you decided to name her that.
It was so crazy. I just was like, how did I not figure that out? What is wrong with me?
Well, to be fair, like, I didn't
But I
know
always
what a
looked at
taint
myself.
was.
I always looked at myself as a knowledgeable child, though. So like,
But like
I
to
should
know
have
what
caught
a
that.
taint is.
Yeah, I had white friends. I should have known that. I knew what a taint was. I just didn't put that together.
No.
I just thought it was a stupid name to call it.
Yeah, I didn't know what that was until like probably high school, like in tail end of high school.
So how this kind of works with Dan was Dan kind of was like worked hand in hand with Amanda. Like they even showed like there was some little uncomfortable looking videos they had of them two.
Yeah.
Them
They were
laying
very,
on each
like,
other.
physically close.
They were very like that's a good way to put it. They were very physically close. They were very affectionate to one another.
Mm-hmm.
The scene like they pointed out the one where he was in the hot tub with her. And he basically implied I created this whole scene to happen because I am who I am.
Yeah.
Which didn't help for the narrative. That only
she was
reenforced
in a
it.
swimsuit and he was
Fully clothed. So it just, I mean, again, glad he didn't have his shirt off. I mean, that would have made it worse.
Yeah.
But it was just so crazy just to see because he even tried to kind of piggyback with her when they talked about she was on the show. What I Like About You. I did not realize she was 16 on that show.
I genuinely thought she was like in her early 20s in that show, but it's really crazy that she was 16. And it was on for a while too.
Yeah, she was the sister, like she was like the fast sister on the show.
Yeah, she was.
Which
she
made
was
it
like
even
the younger
crazy.
sister that moved in and she was like irresponsible and stuff. I think the older sister's name was like Val. I'm not even sure, but I watched that show all the time.
I did too when I was younger cuz I grew up around Amanda Bynes is only a couple years older than me.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's probably like a year or two older than me. So as she progressed, it made sense that me watch her. And she progressed. And it wasn't like she grew up to be an ugly girl. She grew up to be a fairly attractive girl.
Yeah, she ugly now though.
Oh yeah, I mean the drugs hit her hard.
Yeah,
but
it's crazy.
And they even talked about her emancipation that failed, and that
Mhm.
Dan was somebody who helped with trying to get her emancipated.
Of course, because that was his cash cow.
It was his cash cow. But and once that failed, that's how he got back to Nickelodeon, and that's kind of where they tried to make it seem like he doubled down on a lot of things. So one thing we didn't address on the Amanda Bynes show was there was 2 female writers who had an absolutely horrible experience with him.
Mm-hmm. They had to split a salary when they got hired, so they were sharing one writer's salary.
Mm-hmm. And then he also talked about like how aggressive he was, how he would have them do a lot of uncomfortable jokes or just do things just because he wanted them to do with leverage, getting their skit into the show, things like that against them. He would either joke about or take things too far. Like they even talked about a lot of times him asking for massages from the women there.
The thing that stood out to me the most that he asked the blonde woman to do is like bend over the table while you're telling this story and act like you're being sodomized while you're telling this story. And then he just kept asking her and asking her and asking her to do it. And then she just did it. And then when they asked her about it in the interview, she was so uncomfortable that she was like, I don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, and then it was just interesting how like it was something we noted when we were talking about how like when women have been victimized, they'll talk about it in the third person.
Yeah, she was like, I feel bad for that girl.
That young girl, yeah.
Yeah.
And so oh no, speak on it.
It's like as women, I feel like I do this too. You look back, it's not just as women, as people, you look back on your younger self as a different person because you're like, they had a completely different mindset than I do now. I have had so many experiences since I was that person that she does seem like a completely different person. I could go back and talk to her and we would be different. So that's...
I always feel bad when people say that because I'm pretty sure anybody who knows me, if they met me right now, would tell you that there's no real difference in me.
Well, that you could also say that's sad because you've had
no
growth.
I'm just saying. That's what I say. That's just funny when people say that. I never
emotional growth whatsoever.
Hey, got you, didn't it? That means I was already peaked out. But
or says something about me.
All right, so before we get into the darkness of it, because like I said, the one thing they did not touch on, there was no statement of violence that happened against Amanda Bynes. Nobody made any claims about her. I don't even think besides the hot tub scene, they really made her do too much, or they highlighted anything she did that made her feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, they kind of highlighted that like she was able to lean on her talents because she was super talented and her comedic timing was so good. And instead of being cute or being sexy, she was able to just be funny and silly and goofy, which was the first of its kind, like a woman doing that. So,
So after that, he goes back to Nickelodeon. They start to highlight some of the people that were on the Amanda show that kind of transitioned over. And one of the people that they referenced was somebody who was also on All That, and it was Pickle Boy, Brian Peck. Man. The John Wayne Gacy picture didn't do it for y'all?
that was insane.
I mean, they tell a story where, the kids go to his house. He has a party at his house. All, families are there. So it's not just like the kids are alone. And he walks and he sees a picture of a clown. And he ends up talking to Beck about what was going on. And he told him it was a John Wayne Gacy picture.
He turns it around and he sees like it's signed personally
By him.
Yeah.
Before we get into him, there's also another dude that was on the scene, Jason Handy.
Which is crazy that your last name is Handy.
Crazy. This guy, he brings up a girl. He formulates a relationship because he was kind of like the guy who would talk to the parents initially. So maybe if you got your kid who came up to the show for that day and they was going to put you in the scene, he was kind of like your point of contact for your parent.
Mm-hmm.
They say he exchanged emails with one of the girls and then sent the girls naked pictures of himself.
Masturbating.
And
pleasuring himself.
This is early 2000s, yo. What is this nigga on?
Emailing fully nude pictures of yourself in the 2000s. Do you know how much work you have to do that? Like, how early was this? Because depending on how early it was.
Pictures, though. You were sending pictures like 2000, 2001.
But, like, you would have to, like, take the picture, take the SD card, get it onto your computer, transfer it onto your computer somehow, and then, like, he had mad steps.
Or you had to scan it.
Like, there was so many times where he could have been like, this is a bad idea. Maybe this is a bad idea. Maybe I shouldn't do this. Let me stop at this step. But it took like 7 steps, and he was like all throughout that, like, yes, I'm going to send this child my penis.
It was definitely grainy, too. I can only imagine because, like, remember we used to take the cell phone pictures.
Yeah.
And they used to look crazy.
Yeah.
Like, Shawty used to send you a picture of her topless, and it was just like 2 little pixels right there that you got to see. You was like, oh, okay, I think I know what that is. But it was
nasty.
Crazy because he ended up going to jail, I think, for a little. He did some time for that.
He should have did more time for that. It's always crazy to me the amount of time that people, child molesters and sexual deviants get. Y'all should get way more time.
It was crazy to me too that you didn't know that, like, before emailing pictures or like airdropping pictures to women, niggas used to just put a naked picture of themselves and just mail them out to random people.
That is, my day would be ruined if I came home after a long day. I got to sit at the computer, wait for the dial-up. And then I open my email to a white penis.
I'm talking about before that. I'm talking about in the mail.
So
this happened to my mom. She still has the pictures for some reason. It was crazy, but she still has the pictures.
You gotta stop throwing Shirley under the bus.
I'm just telling you real facts.
You gotta stop doing Shirley like this, because first you said 40-year-old high risk pregnancy, and then you telling us she saved random dick pictures that were mailed to her.
She told me that back in the day, and I've heard this from other women too. This is not just my mom. This is from other women her age, that men would take pictures of themselves naked, get a whole bunch of them produced, and then put them in envelopes and mail them to random people's homes. That was the wave.
And those are the same dudes who eventually got to Facebook and started doing that same thing on Facebook.
Yeah, straight up.
Same shit.
Again, Pickle Boy was the one who was probably the most egregious out of all this, because he even went on to, after what we're about to tell y'all about, because I'm going to do a trigger one first, just know what he did. He went to jail for, and then got another job with Zach and Cody. So I just want y'all to preface that. So this is going to be a trigger warning for this. This is assault, child violence, all the bad things.
Yeah, we should have did a trigger warning.
We didn't talk about any bad things though.
But it was a couple.
I think we did a good job hiding it. All right, so Drake Bell, if y'all not familiar, Drake Bell was on All That, I believe. I know he was definitely on the Amanda Show, and he had his own show, Drake and Josh.
Yes, which I absolutely loved.
He was actually like one of the, at the time, he was like the quintessential white boy when I was growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was cool. He was the cool white guy who had the skinny pants, the shirt with 2 stripes on it for whatever reason.
He had the hair.
Hair was rock star hair.
Hair.
He was, every time he looked at the girl on the show, she liked him. Like he was cool.
He was always like just aggressively making out with girls on the show on Drake and Josh. It was
hypersexualized for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
And it comes to find out that he was assaulted at 15. I think it was going on for like a year or so.
Mm-hmm.
And it was by Brian Peck. He was the guy who was doing this. They go into detail where they give Drake his own episode. And man, that talk with his father was having, because he was so protective over Drake.
So bad for his father.
I could understand that pain, where it's like you are trying to do what you can to protect your son, and it's like it's out of your hands. But no, that's exactly what happened. Like he was so protective of him during his early times with Nickelodeon that they end up getting basically custody over back to the mom.
So
that he
Brian
could
Peck
continue.
literally drove a wedge between him and his father. He was telling Drake that his dad was stealing money from him,
Mm-hmm.
which how would you know? You have no access to his finances. And Drake started believing him a little bit and decided that he didn't want his dad to be his manager anymore. So his dad turns everything to his mother and was like, you can completely take over this career. I'm fine with it. The one thing
request
that I need you to do is to not let Drake ever be alone with Brian Peck. Do not let him be around that boy, because like he had a feeling, and it was like a parent's intuition, and he was 100% correct.
They tried to throw homophobia on him because they said that he didn't like Brian because Brian was gay. Like they really, like it was really like what the right wing conspiracy theorists try to put out.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they did to him. Like when they try to say the liberal agenda, like they hit him with that. Where it was like, oh, you don't like him because he's homosexual. You need to be off the set, and literally unprotected.
Yeah. And then he gave a lot of grace to his ex-wife, because he was like, Brian tricked her, because I'd have been like, you raggedy bitch. I gave you one job and you did not do it.
Yeah.
Why do you think?
I think they said they was like shortly after she got basically Power Everything, he was with him alone.
All the time, because it was just easier for him to be there. Oh, he was like, he lives in Orange County and it's a long drive, and he would be like spending the night at his house, and then it was just disgusting.
And he really couldn't even go into detail. You could just tell how scarred he was from just the lack of information he just wanted to provide.
He couldn't put it into words.
And then it didn't even stop until he was with his girlfriend at the time, and the mom was the one who was like, why is this 40-year-old man calling you multiple times,
blowing up your phone
to the point where he got our house phone number and called our house phone?
Mm-hmm.
She ends up getting him to a therapist. He opens up to a therapist. They get the authorities involved. They end up doing a wiretapping where he basically all but confesses to what he did, and they go to jail. He goes to jail. But in the midst of the trial, of course, they keep Drake's name, out of the paper and whatnot.
Yeah, he's completely anonymous.
He's completely anonymous throughout that time. There was a lot of your favorite famous people advocating for Brian Peck.
This was crazy.
So some people y'all might not be familiar with.
They were writing what were they called? Letters of like character or something like that.
Witness kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Just basically trying to say like, oh, he, deserves grace.
Guy.
Yeah. Basically they're trying to stand up for his character witnesses.
Mm-hmm.
So James Marsden was an individual who wrote. Alan Thicke, Robin Thicke's father, wrote in his defense. X-Men producer Tom DeSoto.
Shame.
Ryder Strong, who was Sean on Boy Meets World.
The entire Boy Meets World cast.
It was Sean,
like,
and then
what?
it was Will Freddie or Freddle.
It was literally just Topanga and Angela. That was the only two people that didn't.
Corey didn't write nothing either. But no, that he wrote one. They both wrote one. Let me see. Who were some other people? I think that was pretty much the main ones that I took. But it was he even tried to get Drake to make him the dad on Drake and Josh.
Yeah. And then at this point, Drake was like, absolutely not. I do not want you to be anywhere near me. This is not happening. I'm not doing that.
So I think it's important that we had this conversation because, again, we don't want to belittle his experience because Glenn is all documented and things of that nature. But do you feel like in some way this was also being used to clean up his image? Because he's also had things that he's gone to jail for. Or not jail for, but he's got charged for.
Yeah, he did 2 years probation.
Yeah, for it was contacting and having inappropriate conversations with a 16-year-old girl.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a hurt people type of situation?
Think it's definitely one of those situations because if you are subject to this in your childhood, then you are a little bit more likely to
repeat it.
Yeah. It's definitely not an excuse, but like it's a weird gray area because you don't want to say that he deserves grace, but he went through something like extremely traumatic. Mm-hmm. And I'm just glad that like he didn't take it so far.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But he got punished for it. Yeah. And he did his time, and there's always going to be a stigma around his name regardless of the fact that we know that this happened to him. Yes, you're still going to be like the creepy guy that was talking to a teenager. So
yeah. I mean, I kind of was being mindful of that portion, but I just to hear his story, it did understand where it was like, okay, man, this guy was like, if you even think about his archetype, like the redhead kid being abused, that's like all through media. Like it's just crazy just to think about that, and it's just people
act
like
have red hair though. I thought Drake had it was a brunette.
No, it was like a darkish burgundy-ish kind of looking color, but it was just crazy too, where people were like in their character witness were saying he was being tempted. They were saying that like the Brian Peck was being tempted by his victim, even with the confession.
That's not a thing.
It was just crazy.
You're just creepy and you're attracted to young boys. They're not tempting you.
So just to kind of put where Dan kind of fits into this, Dan didn't write a letter.
No, he just had light brown hair. He never had red hair.
Okay, well they had him in red hair where he was in that movie with Tom Cruise. But Dan didn't write any letter. Dan, from what Drake even said, was supportive.
Yeah.
There was a little inconsistency where the people who were at all that tried to make it seem like there wasn't any grace given. Like there was. They just said it was something happened. They said they made the parents walk out. That the parents walked out. They told the kids a rough thing of what happened and asked them did they need to talk about anything. Nobody said anything, and this was over with after that.
Do you think that they handled it that way because they couldn't get into specifics because they were trying to keep Drake's name out of it? Nobody knew that it was him.
Oh, no, for sure. It was that, and it was just them trying to protect their own asses.
That, too.
That's definitely
I think it was both
the
of
fact
those.
that they had the parents leave. If the parents left, that was already a violation of everything.
But why did the parents not get notified? That's what I want to know. Like, were they notified separately?
And that's what it seems like. They learned it at a separate time.
Okay.
But they told the kids on their own, which I thought was highly inappropriate if that happened.
Yeah. There definitely needs to be parental supervision when you're telling them that happened.
So,
but maybe they told each group two separate versions.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm hoping. I don't know.
It's like there was a lot of inconsistencies, but the way they kind of wrapped up, they went into the Zoe 101, iCarly, Victorious, Ariana Grande era, and they talked about a lot of inappropriate jokes that were there. They even referenced the backpack episode with the girl who was been real vocal, who was on Zoe 101.
Mm-hmm.
She was real vocal.
Yeah,
she was real vocal in all of that. Then the Jeanette McCarthy does the tell-all book. McCurdy does the tell-all book. I think that was 2000. That just came out 2022. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I thought that book came out way before then.
No, she's been doing. She did a lot of press afterwards, so that's probably why, because she
Okay.
talked about it a lot.
I just remember that I thought that book came out like 17,
Mm-mm.
but that's when they said that was the year he kind of got
Nicole
pushed away.
Nicole Bristow.
Oh, that was her? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
She was the one who was doing a lot of the talk. She said she had probably some of the worst time on the show.
Oh no, her name is Alexa Nicholas.
Okay.
Nicole is the character that she played on Zoe 101.
Okay, but they said that she had a real tough time, and she's been one of the most vocal people about that. Let's see. I want to know the question is, there was no mention of Nick Cannon. Nick Cannon, what happened to you? You were working with Dan.
There's a lot of
Don't be quiet.
there's a lot of people that didn't say anything that are
Kel?
Jamie.
Keenan?
Yeah, Jamie Lynn.
I wanted to say that too because they kept trying to say the money shot thing was. They used to do that with Keenan and Kel all the time. They used to put orange soda, ketchup used to always get sprayed in Kel's face and Keenan's face. Like that was a normal thing.
That was just a normal Nickelodeon thing.
Yeah, so that's why I didn't want to take too much into it. But let's get into I want y'all.
There was a lot of like after stuff that happened.
Yeah,
with
there was
this
a
too.
lot of conflict that happened afterwards.
Like first,
we're talking about Just Jordan, JJ. Remember little JJ?
I do remember what happened with him.
He said that his show got canceled and they was not getting his butthole, even though his show wasn't even produced by Dan Schneider. His show was produced by a black guy.
Well, somebody else could have been trying to get it, because
could have been.
apparently in Hollywood it just be people trying to get buttholes.
Then it was Ned Declassified. You told me I can't not to say what I wanted to say about Ned.
Don't say that.
I'm not gonna say it, but Ned, you're foul.
You're super foul. Saying that like, oh, we didn't experience that when y'all have a podcast where you talk about how drunk and high y'all were on set all the time, and you talking about Jen just knocking down the entire cast. She was just on set, just between takes, just gobbling the dicks while y'all were drunk. And then she had a whole episode where she talked about basically being sexually assaulted while she was drunk, and y'all want to talk about, oh, we didn't experience that. No, you're still living in your victimhood, and you need to be saved.
Yeah, there's some therapy that needs to go on over
Y'all
there.
need intense
I just want y'all
therapy.
to know what I was going to say was a whole bunch worse than what she just said. Like I had some heat for you, Ned. Real shit. You better be glad I didn't do that. And then
now you having a baby with her, the dick gobbler.
That's sick. That's nasty, Ned. And then also Dan did his own tell-all.
Tebow, you should be ashamed of your goddamn self.
I didn't like that. Apparently, he wasn't a child actor with them. He was an adult on the show.
He was a full adult.
when he was on that show.
You don't remember Tebow?
I didn't.
He put everything on.
Even though iCarly was such a forward-thinking show, I didn't watch it. It was on when I was in high school, so it was like I wasn't really about to sit there and watch this flat-chested white girl. I feel like I can say that because I was a child.
And Nickelodeon for much longer than I should have.
At that time, like Zoe 101, when I was like a freshman in high school, like my junior year, my middle school 8th grade year to high school, like I used to like Zoe 101, but that's because the girls was like looking like girls and they was alone with on the campus. There wasn't no adults around. Like let's get busy. So you know what happened to me in high school, so but Dan did his apology, and I feel like I appreciate listening to it because again, like we said, we thought we were getting Harvey Weinstein for children, and what it came out to be was just the dude was really just horrible bosses, and
a very he put way too sexual of jokes in
for
something
sure.
That's supposed to be consumed by children.
But
let's not glaze past that. Let's not glaze past the amount of money shot jokes that this man made for children.
So let's
by
talk
children.
about. He talked about that though. He talked about that in his apology. He did take accountability for what was going on with the writers and what was going on set. But he said those jokes were not just solely by me. I did not have complete autonomy at Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
And to me, what it felt like after kind of getting all that information, it felt like he was just the scapegoat. They propped him up. They gave him all these awards and all of this notoriety while still promoting a culture where everybody in the room sees a young girl get sprayed with gook and gunk on her face that looks like cum, and we're all cool with it and laughing. To me, he's not the only person who's the archetype of that culture.
Mm-hmm.
There was other people who had to be okay with this. There was a group of people. When you work with kids, I worked with kids on movies and stuff before. There is a lot of red tape when it comes to working with children and what images are okay. There's certain things that you can't even do, like with the child. If the mom isn't a person, like you can't have a kid naked in a movie or being shown naked in a movie if they're not being shown with their parent, like their actual parent.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I remember somebody was just telling a story. I think it was Zack Schneider was telling this story where he was trying to do that for was the Watchmen, and he was trying to have a scene where the boy was going to be like in his drawers or something. And they said the only way that they could do it was his real mom had to be in the scene with him, but he couldn't get his mom to do the scene, so the scene didn't happen that way. But like, there is red tape that has to be done for children to be on set like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree where I don't think he was the sole archetype of these jokes. He wasn't the only person who was giving us the green light. There was people above him who wanted to see this.
Yeah, he has bosses.
And I feel like they set him up to be the perfect fall guy. So when it all came out, I think when he was coming down there being pissed off at people, it was a reflection of what he was hearing from the top. Oh, change this, do this over. Even though we just spent hours on these jokes, hours on this skit. Now you just want us to change it immediately and so we can be ready for the show in 2 hours.
There is a part of me that, like, yes, he was some sort of scapegoat, but at the same time, like, he was still writing these jokes. So he was still feeding into this culture also. Everyone is horrible.
Oh, I'm not taking that away at all.
Yeah.
I can just see where this has been set up for him to be just the fall guy for this. And
yeah.
I think that's fucked up. I think that's a lot of Hollywood BS that's going on there. I think there's a lot more people who should be held accountable for this.
That won't be.
And that won't be. I think a lot of people, I would argue there's probably people who produced this who was probably working at Nickelodeon at the time and could be a part of this. I would like to do some more deep digging before I make that concrete, but I would definitely, it wouldn't surprise me if there was folks like who were executive producers at Nickelodeon and did this too.
Yeah.
So was there anything else that we need to get to with it? I think we kind of covered everything.
Yeah.